Hello, everyone, and welcome to week two. Forgive my mission control headset, my laptop microphone is not working. Let's go ahead and talk about communities of practice. Specifically, we're going to cover an article by Lee et al. That focuses on Wenger's concept of community of practice. So if we think back to chapter 3 of this week's reading and the introduction of the concept of community of practice, it was defined as a group of individuals typically that engage socially, usually around a common purpose and usually for the advancement of knowledge regarding that purpose. Now, I found this image from MIT and I really liked it because I thought in one visual you got a lot of the attributes that come with a community of practice, including the community, social engagement, diversity, and a common purpose. But if we say that the purpose of a community of practice is learning, innovation, and the sharing of knowledge, that's pretty typical, but a lot of organizations that are now using the concept are using it as a tool to improve outcomes when that is not really the original intent of the concept. And it's difficult to use the community of practice concept as a measurement tool for outcomes, and we'll get to that at the end of the talk. So my objective today is to give you a synopsis of this article by Lee et al. And what the authors do in this article is review the concept of community of practice. And the way that they do that is by comparing and contrasting three of the major works by Wenger. They also identify some of the inconsistencies in community of practice definitions and highlight how this impacts our ability to use it as a tool in teaching and learning. And then they also work to identify some new areas of research that we can use to look at communities of practice, and especially being able to use it in the healthcare industry. So if we look at the evolution of this concept over time, you can see that the concept of the idea of social learning and communities gathering around a shared purpose are maintained, and the differences really are pretty nuanced, but overall seems to reflect a move from communities of practice as a learning theory to a organizational management tool, particularly in business workplaces. So at the end of the review, the authors concluded that there is not really a consistent definition of a community of practice, though there are a lot of common traits. The reason this is important, it's important from a experimental perspective, because if you can't define it, you can't study it, therefore you can't conclusively say that it's an effective tool for improving any particular outcomes that you may be looking at. And being able to measure outcomes is essential, especially as medical schools begin to consider integrating communities of practice into their curriculums, as well as different healthcare organizations think about adopting it as a framework. So again, it's really important that we are able to actually measure outcomes. One of their other conclusions is that instead of focusing on trying to get a formal definition together, to focus more of the research on innovations that will optimize the various common traits of community of practice. So this includes the novice-expert relationship, learning and sharing of knowledge, and fostering a sense of belonging. I definitely agree with this conclusion. I think that we shouldn't anguish over trying to come up with a solid definition of the community of practice. But what we can do is recognize that organizations like our doctorate program possess a lot of these attributes And if we try to optimize those, then we're able to improve the ultimate purpose, which is the social learning and the development of community with a shared purpose. So I hope this has given you some insight into the concept of community of practice, especially if you're thinking of leveraging this at your own organization. I appreciate everybody watching, and I look forward to everyone's feedback. Thanks.